and welcome back to If Giving Government, a Volusia County podcast. My name is Kelsee Russler.
And I'm Maggy DuRant, and today we interview Volusia County Mosquito Control Director Marcus McDonough, and it was so interesting. I learned so much in this episode.
Me too. And before we dig into today's episode, we're going to go ahead and send it to Maya for the news.
Hello, Volusia County. I'm Maya Duxon. Here's a look at what's happening around our community. We begin with exciting news for local travelers. JetBlue is coming back to Daytona Beach International Airport. Starting December 4th, JetBlue will offer 2 daily nonstop flights to New York City and Boston. Tickets are already on sale, so if you're ready to book your trip, head to flydaytonafirst.com for more information. Residents affected by Hurricane Milton can now apply for help. With $133.5 million in federal funding approved, Volusia County's Transform 386 Homeowner Recovery Program is now accepting applications. The program offers assistance for home repairs, replacements, voluntary buyouts, and flood mitigation support. To apply or learn more about eligibility, visit transform386.org. State Senator Tom Wright has presented a $400,000 check to support the expansion of Volusia County's Emergency Operations Center. The center plays a vital role during hurricanes and other emergencies. The new funding contributes to the $5 million expansion project, which will increase space, improve coordination and response capabilities, and will be ready by spring 2026. Mark your calendars for a hands-on day of learning at the Volusia County Library's annual How To Festival, happening Saturday, September 13th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 6 library locations. Choose from over 50 sessions for skills like clown tricks, tai chi, snake identification, and more. No registration is required. Full schedules are available at volusialibrary.libcal.com. Looking to give back? Volunteers are needed for the 40th Annual International Coastal Cleanup. Help clean up over 20 sites along the beach and river areas on Saturday, September 20th from 8 to 11 a.m. Last year, more than 1,500 volunteers collected over 8,000 pounds of trash. Register now through September 8th at volusia.org/cleanup. And finally, if you're concerned about flooding, Volusia County's new Flooding and Stormwater Management e-newsletter is a great way to stay informed about local mitigation efforts. You can subscribe now at volusia.org. That's all for news. For more information, follow County of Volusia on socials or visit volusia.org. I'm Maya Duxon. Thanks for tuning in. Back to Kelsee and Maggy.
Thank you so much, Maya, for all of that news and everything that's going on in Volusia County.
So now it's time to enjoy today's episode. Sit back, relax, and give it a watch.
It's giving government.
Hi, Marcus. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course.
We're very excited to have you and to talk about all things mosquito control.
I'm happy to answer whatever questions you guys might have.
Well, good, because we have a lot of them.
I have
That's good.
a lot of questions about mosquitoes.
A lot of people do.
Before we dig into, the episode and everything, we'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your background, where you went to school, how you became director of mosquito control.
Of course, yeah. So I'm originally from Indiana. So if you're in Indiana and you want to do entomology, you go to Purdue. Boiler up, go Boilers. I went to Purdue, got my bachelor's and my master's there, working with termites, actually.
Oh, interesting.
From there, I worked for the state of Indiana for a couple years, and then I ended up joining the Navy as an entomologist.
Okay.
Did the Navy entomology thing for about 10 and a half years, traveled around quite a bit, was stationed in several different places, I was getting out and looking for a job, and this happened to be a place I was looking for somebody, and I said, I can probably do that. So I applied, and here I am. So I've been here for about 3.5 years now.
Oh, wow. And what is your role as director of mosquito control? What does that entail?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
It is Florida. There's a lot of mosquitoes.
Yeah.
So really, my job is just to make sure that our program is running efficiently and effectively. We are handling the situations that may come up, whether it's domestic problems, so lots of mosquitoes around people's homes, if it's lots of mosquitoes in the salt marshes, if it is potential disease cases, so mosquito-borne diseases that are showing up in Volusia County. Really, I'm coordinating the response to all of those things, plus all the other things, budget, personnel, all those fun boss things that every boss gets to do.
So why is mosquito control? I know everyone thinks Florida, they think mosquitoes. Why is it so important for a county like Volusia County?
Well, so it kind of goes back to where we first started. So Volusia County mosquito control came out as the East Volusia Mosquito Control District or Mosquito Abatement District back in 1937. And so it was a lot of businesses and business owners who got together and decided that we needed to get rid of the mosquitoes in order to increase tourism. And really, that's the primary driver of why we came into existence was, there's too many mosquitoes here for people to enjoy being here. So we need to do something to make it so that people can actually come here. And that's one of the reasons why it's so big in Florida is the tourism and making it comfortable. But it's also for the residents who live here. I'm sure we've all experienced those days walking out the home, even just heading to your car, and you're just getting absolutely swarmed by mosquitoes. So that's a lot of why we're here. But we also do manage the mosquito-borne disease threat that's here. So we're out doing surveillance for the diseases. We work very closely with the health department to if there's any clinical cases that come around, and then we respond to those in order to mitigate the risks of humans catching those diseases.
Wow, that's so interesting. And I know for a lot of our different divisions here at the county, we service a lot of unincorporated Volusia. That's a big part of what we do. Do you guys have any partnerships with like cities and things like that in order to serve those locations as well?
We do. So for those who aren't familiar, we have a special taxing district set up that kind of covers the eastern half of the county. And again, that goes back to its origination of really being the East Volusia Mosquito Abatement District because it was set up by the businesses along the coast. However, we do work both outside the district with MSD and the cities on the west side. So the cities, if there's an issue that we need to respond to, whether it's high mosquito trap counts or if there's a disease case, we coordinate with the city to get their approval because they do pay for those services. And then any work in an unincorporated Volusia outside of the mosquito control district, we get the reimbursement through the MSD fund.
Oh, wow.
It sounds like you guys are doing a lot of work pretty much all over the county. I mean, what does a typical day look like for you guys with a personnel in mosquito control?
That's a tough question to answer because it's I would say there's not really a typical day other than you don't really know what you're going to be walking into. Briefly, so we kind of have two sides. We have an operational side, and then we have more an environmental side. So the environmental side is going to be handling the trapping, taking care of our sentinel chicken flock, and those kind of jobs, more sciencey type jobs. So running projects, looking at testing for resistance to the chemicals that we use. So their side is a little more predictable, I guess, because there's just certain things we have to do on certain days. And then on the operational side, that's really we're responding to the mosquito population. We're looking for mosquito larvae to try to treat them when they're before they become adults. We are responding to customer service requests that the citizens of Volusia County put in. So going and talking to homeowners, seeing if we can, identify, if there is a problem at their home or, one thing in addition to mosquitoes that we deal with here are no-see-ums. And unfortunately, we don't control no-see-ums.
Dang it.
We had that question.
I was going to ask that. I have
So
many of them.
I'll preempt that. And it's just they're not something that's easily controlled. You'd essentially have to be spraying in the morning and in the evening to control the ones that are there right now, and then doing that every day because every day you get more coming out.
Dang it.
Sorry, Maggie.
That's no heartbreak. I know.
It's just it's part of being in Florida on the coast.
That is true. That is true.
We deal with that at our facility every single morning. So we know your pain.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
And we feel for it as well.
Yes, it's rough. It's rough. So you brought up something that I find so interesting, which is the chickens.
Yes.
Can you explain to me what you guys do with the chickens?
Okay. Yeah. So Chickens are a good surrogate to have out and surveillance tool to look for mosquito-borne diseases. So primarily with those, we're looking for West Nile virus and Eastern equine encephalitis and St. Louis encephalitis. And so the chickens, we have them out, spread out throughout the county, and we draw blood samples every week and look for antibodies to those diseases from the chickens. Now the nice thing is the chickens are out there, and yes, they get the antibodies to the diseases, so we can detect it, but they don't actually get sick from those diseases.
Okay.
So they're not really, there's no harm to them as far as disease wise, but it gives us an indicator of what's present and what may be out there that we need to be aware of.
Wow.
And chicken aren't the only animals that you guys use, right? I've heard Clayton mention quite a few times about the mosquito fish.
So the mosquito fish, they're not a surveillance tool. They're one of our controlled tools.
Okay.
So if we have standing water someplace and we get mosquito production, we can put those mosquito fish in that standing water, and they'll actually eat the mosquito larvae in that pool. They're good for roadside ditches, abandoned or neglected pools. Even if people have just large bodies of standing water in the yard that aren't going away, we can put the mosquito fish in there. And the great thing about them is you kind of put them in, and then they do their thing, and you get more fish. And so it kind of replenishes itself as long as there is water still standing there. They're there and can provide that control for you.
Wow,
That is
that's
so cool.
interesting. It's so interesting the way in which you guys study the mosquitoes, because I look at a mosquito and I'm like, somebody kill it. Like, that's all I care about.
Immediately, I just want it gone.
Yeah, I just want it dead. And I heard a rumor. I don't know if this is true. Do you guys actually do tests where you guys like stand there and see how many mosquito land on you?
Yeah, so that's actually one of our surveillance techniques that are.
Don't give him ideas for day in the life.
Well, that was going to be a little surprise for
Oh, great. Wonderful. I can't wait. Don't tell Maya.
Yeah, so we do that. It's one of our surveillance tools that our inspectors, when they're out looking for populations, they'll use that.
Mhm.
So yeah, you go and you kind of stir up the area for 4 or 5 minutes, and then you stand there and count how many mosquitoes try to land on you. So you don't, in theory, you don't let them land on you and bite you. But it is a surveillance tool, and we're trying to collect them so we can identify to find out what species it is. Now, the caveat to that is if we're responding to a disease case or a potential disease, we don't do that because we don't. While the risk is low, if we don't want to use that surveillance technique because it does have an increased risk for our inspectors.
Yeah.
So
What is like the most mosquitoes that will land on you? Like, what's the record number you've seen?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't have a good number
That's
for
fear-
that.
I'm afraid.
Yeah, like I'm like thinking I walk outside my house and I have like 5. Like,
Yeah.
is that a high number?
That's not really a high number.
Dang.
So our kind of threshold that we use for treatments is 10.
Okay.
And so that's over a 1 minute period.
Oh, okay.
So 10 mosquitoes trying to land on you over a 1 minute period
Okay.
is our treatment threshold. We're like, okay, that's not a reasonable number.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes uncomfortable, so that we become a nuisance. We do get some very high ones sometimes, and sometimes it's really hard to tell how many you actually get because there are so many.
Oh, jeez Louise.
I know that's not an answer you like to hear.
I was gonna
during
say
this conversation.
great fuel for my nightmares.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So when you go out, you do all this testing and everything. I also get the emails of ground operations, UV operations. I get all the different emails, and I have no idea what they mean.
Right.
In full transparency.
Okay.
So can you explain to us, what those operations look like?
Yeah, so probably the ones you get most often are our nighttime ULV operations. And so that's where we're going out and we're treating smaller sections using the truck-mounted ULV equipment. So that's the foggers on the back of the truck that everybody thinks about. Ours, it's putting out very small amounts of pesticide over a large area. And it's a small enough amount that it will kill the mosquitoes that it contacts, but it's a lot. You're not just blanketing the area with lots of pesticide.
Wow, that's so interesting.
So then we also do have I don't know if you get the email for aerial applications also. So if it's for the daytime, we're doing larviciding missions. Primarily right now we're focusing on the marshes, so the North Marsh and the South Marsh. We have roughly 50,000 acres of salt marsh in the county that we have to help provide control on, because salt marsh mosquitoes are they're vicious. Large numbers, they'll fly a long distance, and very voracious biters. So we really do our best to try to mitigate that and to get them under control. Sometimes we will also have our nighttime ULV operations, or even we can contract in airplanes if it's bad, or if we're post-hurricane, we'll have airplanes come in, and it's the same. They do the same thing as the helicopter and really the trucks. It's just that the by air we can cover a lot more territory than we can from the ground.
Yeah.
And sometimes, in areas that we can't really access due to poor road network, or just not a lot of roads being there for us to drive down.
Yeah, that makes sense. You brought up hurricanes, which, being a Florida native, I know that standing water is not good for mosquitoes. How do hurricanes and weather affect you guys' operations?
So, I mentioned kind of bad salt marsh and the general consensus, because it's bad across Florida right now. Any coastal county is having bad salt marsh this year. And a lot of it is because of the rains and the storms we had last year, providing that standing water habitat, the salt marsh mosquitoes. And a lot of the mosquitoes, they'll lay their eggs kind of on the edge of the water. And then when the area floods again, then the larvae hatch and you come out.
Oh.
So what you're getting a lot now can be mosquitoes that were laid last year or the year before. They can actually last in the environment for a while. So
I feel like my mouth has just been open this whole episode.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
So
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yep. So we have a small group called floodwater mosquitoes also, and they're aggressive biters. So apart from the salt marsh, so if you think you're safe because you don't live by the marsh, we also have other ones that are aggressive biters and can come out in large numbers.
This is just giving me so many fears. So the eggs, they lay along the edges of the water. Even if the water dries out, they don't hatch until it refloods.
That's correct.
So they could just stay.
Oh, I'm so stressed. I'm so stressed about the rain.
Well, we keep talking about the larva, adult. Like, what's the? I guess it's just they're laid, and then how long does an adult live? I have so many questions.
Yeah. So a lot of times the adults, they're relatively short-lived. You're looking at a couple weeks is a long life.
That just feels like a long life for a mosquito.
Yeah.
Now that's, during the winter, you actually get some who overwinter. They'll hide in a protected space, and they're not really hibernating, but they're just kind of hanging out and waiting for it to warm back up and for their hosts to come back out to feed on.
So we can talk offline about where to not go to find the hibernating mosquito, the non-hibernating mosquitoes.
Oh my gosh, I'm like stressed about all this. So that being said, do you guys track the mosquito populations through that period, or do they normally die off during the winter?
So generally, if we get a cold enough winter where we're actually getting freezes, you will see a reduction, a good reduction in the mosquito population.
Okay.
If we're having a very mild winter, we're responding to requests throughout the entire year. So, we kind of have our busy time as the summer, kind of this, spring through fall.
The Florida summer.
Florida summer. And the winter is our slower time. But like I said, we're still out there. We still find production. We still respond to customer service requests, people with mosquitoes being bitten around their homes. And so we're still going out there and doing those things. And during the slower time, a lot of times it's more, we're actively looking for those larval production sites. We have areas where we know standing water happens, and so we'll target those, looking for standing water, doing mosquito dipping. So we got a cup on a stick basically, and you're trying to catch the mosquito larvae in that cup. And so that's what we're kind of looking for, and then treating as we need to.
I'm just in awe. Like, this whole episode is not at all what I expected, and I kind of love that.
In a great way.
In a great way. I know before we actually got into the episode, we were talking a little bit about some of the new exciting technology you guys are trying to use. So could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so we have lots of things other than just the ULV trucks. We have other equipment where we can spray large areas for larvicide. We have backpack blowers where if we have large areas, we can spray granular material out. And then probably our newest thing, newest for us, is we're actually starting to get into unmanned aircraft systems, so drones for mosquito treatments. So it's a different aerial application. It's of course you're looking at a lot smaller areas, but you're also looking at areas that maybe it doesn't make sense for the helicopter to treat because they are small, but it's really too big for our inspectors to effectively do by hand or from the ground. It's also cleaning up areas, maybe some of the larger polys that the helicopters are treating, going kind of cleaning up the edges. I was talking to a state senator, a year or two ago, kind of describing our need for the drone, and he provided an analogy that I thought was kind of the coolest and but quite frankly a good analogy. So the helicopters like the riding lawnmower, treating those areas, getting the large areas, and the drones are kind of like the trimmer push mowers, where you're going doing the very edges that the larger equipment doesn't get as effectively.
That makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, you need all sorts of tools, I'm sure, to treat the mosquitoes and make sure you're getting into the areas that you need to. Something that I experienced the first time, not that long ago, I actually had a mosquito land on me, and I took a minute after when I had met with you, and I saw the different species, and I noticed that it had white legs on it instead of black legs, and I was like, oh, this is so interesting. And then I realized what we had talked about is that there's so many different species of mosquitoes. How many species are there, and what is most common in Volusia County?
Oh,
That's not good.
most common. That's not an easy one.
Okay.
We have lots, and I should have known you were going to ask me this question, because off the top of my head, I can't remember. It's somewhere around 86 species of mosquitoes in Florida. A lot more than that worldwide.
Yeah. Now, do you target the different species differently, or do they all
we can, yeah. So that's why it's kind of a hard question. So, I kind of talked about the floodwater mosquitoes earlier. Those are ones with standing water. So when we start seeing those, we know we got standing water. A lot of times we'll see those after larger rain events, like we've been having. So we're starting to see an increase in those. Again, the salt marsh mosquitoes, we have, very targets there. But then, really, you've heard me say kind of domestic mosquitoes. So those are more your Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus, and they are some of those black with white legs and other white markings on them. And those are what we call container breeders. So around your home, you think about, you don't have a lot, but those mosquitoes can survive from egg to adulthood in a capful, like a bottle cap full of water can make. So it doesn't take a lot, but a lot of times, around here, people, lots of outside plants, and you got your little tray underneath your planter to hold the water. Well, you get mosquitoes breeding in those. Bird baths, if you don't clean them out or flush them out once a week, they can start breeding mosquito larvae. Bromeliads, if you think about them and how they're kind of sitting there with the different cups, you get mosquito larvae inside those little cups of the bromeliad. And so again, if you're starting to get those, you can wash them out. And it flushes the larvae out. So there's just, it kind of depends on what you do. And that's one of the reasons why we do our surveillance with our traps and everything, to know what we have, so that we kind of get a better idea of the approach we need to take for them. Because the other thing, those domestics, the Aedes albopictus and Aedes aegypti, those are usually flying during the day. So we call them daytime mosquitoes versus your nighttime mosquitoes. So a lot of people don't think about that or even realize that. So it's not just, I'm good. It's not nighttime. I don't have to worry about mosquitoes.
It's so funny you say that, because I've actually started to notice that at my house, and we have a bird bath, and we have outdoor plants, and we have all these things. So when I get home, I know exactly what I'm doing.
I was like, I'm going to dump out my kid's water table, because who knows how long, like that kind of stuff, the rain comes and then.
And it can be, stuff like that. You don't really think about. If you have a tarp outside covering something up, no matter how well you smooth out that tarp and you have it so the water sheds, there's generally a spot that collects water. So we see tarps a lot, and it's not that you're doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
But if you don't realize that that's where you can be having problems, then you don't know that you need to take care of that.
Yeah, I didn't know I need to take care of that. I know what I need
know
to
now.
do now.
So we did talk a little bit about, unfortunately, Maggie, they don't treat the no-see-ums.
I know, that's the biggest heartbreak of my entire life.
What other bugs do you treat, or is it just mosquitoes?
We only do mosquitoes. We have people who call up sometimes with other questions about different things, and we try to educate when we can. So we try not to be like, oh, we don't do anything about that. So, even if you call with a no-see-em problem, we try to provide information on how to protect yourself. So wearing repellent, trying to avoid being outside. It's a lot of the same with mosquitoes, trying to be avoid outside the time when they're most active. It's generally kind of that first thing in the morning and when the evening starts to roll around. And a lot of times you do get mosquitoes active at the same time. If you're outside, being in an enclosed screened area helps. Depending on the size of your screen and if there's holes, because they are very small, so they can't get through a lot of screening. But having a fan out, because they're not super strong flyers, for the no-see-em, so that can help provide some protection. And even a little bit if you have like like one of the like tabletop emitters that kind of puts out a cloud of repellent, can be helpful as well.
Yeah, we talked a lot about, I'm getting all the life advice that
Oh, yeah.
I ever needed right now about mosquitoes, about things that we can do around our homes. We can check for water. We can, turn on fans. We can be inside those screens. Is there anything else that's a huge help to people to avoid mosquitoes?
Really just wearing your repellent. That's the biggest thing you can do is wear an EPA approved repellent. So everybody knows the DEET. And it's great. It's good. It works well. But if you don't like it, some people have, I personally have a skin sensitivity to it. So, I like using another product called picaridin. And there's another active ingredient called IR3535, and they've been evaluated to be just as effective as DEET. And so you can wear those, you can buy them, any of your local store, like, stores that carry that type of thing. And also you can purchase them online.
I know. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to make mental notes of all the things I can do to go home.
And then and I know right now it's hard to think about, walking across the parking lot in this long sleeve shirt today. I was like, oof. But, wearing long sleeves and long pants if you're outside at high activity times helps. Lighter collar clothing, helpful as well. And just, trying to avoid being outside when those mosquitoes are most active. Those are kind of the general things that we always tell people to do.
Well, you've convinced me I can be inside of the AC and not have to deal with mosquitoes. I think it's a win-win. Is there any other common misconceptions you think people would have about mosquito control or mosquitoes in general?
Yeah, I think the biggest misconception that people have, and it's because it was how it was historically done, is we just spray. We spray on a regular basis. Every Thursday we're spraying this neighborhood, or every other Thursday. And that's because that's how it used to be. You'd go and spray every week or every couple weeks, and it worked, and there weren't a lot of mosquitoes out. But when you do that and you're putting so much product out there, it's not as environmentally friendly, and it also builds up to mosquitoes being resistant to those products. So you're having to use even more and more product, or you get to a point where it just doesn't work anymore at all. So we utilize an approach called integrated pest management, where we have to accept that some mosquitoes are okay. And I think that's one of the biggest thing. I think, some mosquitoes are okay. You can't get to no mosquitoes. It's just not a realistic goal to have. So you have some mosquitoes are okay. And I talked about, doing the landing rate. 10 is our treatment threshold. Mm-hmm. And so we have set thresholds for our different surveillance techniques. And once we reach those thresholds, we start looking at control. Now, it doesn't mean we have to. We take a lot of things into account. If we're getting higher numbers of mosquitoes, but nobody's complaining about them, they're there. We know they're there, but they're not causing a nuisance. And it could be very localized to our trap. Maybe we put it right next to a storm drain that the mosquitoes suddenly hatched off of, and we caught a lot of them, but they haven't really dispersed out other places. So it keys us into where we can start looking. But it's not a necessity, like, oh, it's not a magic on or off switch. It's at this point you can start looking for control options. You can see what our resources are. If we get 11 bites over here, but 10 miles away we got a place where we had 60 bites, or I shouldn't say bites, landing attempts. We have to go control the problem. That's the greatest problem at that point in time. Now we can probably do both. The reality is we can do both. And when we're doing, when we're doing our nighttime treatments, we have eight trucks that can go out and spray. And sometimes we've had them where we're spraying with a group of people in the evening and then turning around in the morning and using some of those same trucks to spray again. So ideally we don't have to do that, but sometimes we do. And so, we're going out, we're treating as we need to. We're trying to target the larvae instead of treating the adults. And all of our larvicide products that we have are naturally derived. So we use soil bacterias, and then a hormone that occurs in insects, juvenile hormone, and different ways so it disrupts them from becoming adults. So those are some of the different things that we do. So it's not just to go out and spray. We're looking, we're investigating, we're exploring more than just spray. And part of that also is dumping those containers of water or emptying those bird baths to help. So you're doing non-chemical control methods. And then we also like to educate people. So that's one of the things that's great about here is we're kind of spreading this information around. We try to go out to schools and other community events to let them know about mosquito control and what we do.
Yeah, that's I've learned so much
I know.
today so far. One of the big questions that we get a lot on social media and on email all over the place when we're announcing that we're spraying is the safety it is for pets and humans. Is there any concern for pets and humans when you guys are spraying?
What we like to say to people is, try to avoid being sprayed. Just it's we're putting out such a small amount, so we're generally, when we're talking ULV, the best visual is 1 ounce of a shot spread evenly over a football field.
Oh wow.
So that's not a lot of product that we're putting out. So the dose that we're putting out is very small. But we still, even though we're putting out such a small dose, we still don't like to people to be in contact with the spray. And that's one of those things, any pesticide you use, it always says try to avoid contact with it. So we encourage people to stay inside. Our drivers, when they're going out, if they see somebody out walking, they turn off the machine and they wait till we get a safe distance away before they turn it back on again. So we do have that control inside. It's not just an always on, so we're targeting a little bit better. We're actually controlling, so we're avoiding people as best that we can. But these products, they're generally safe. If you look at the concentration, it's a very small amount spread over a large area.
Now, is it also safe for other insects that we need, like bees? If you're out spraying for mosquitoes, does it affect that kind of population?
This is a very common question that we get is, we're spraying for the adult mosquitoes at nighttime. And at nighttime, those bees are back in their hives. They're inside. They're not getting the contact because it is a contact. We don't, the ULV spraying is not residual. So it has to come in contact with them. So if they're inside their hive, they're not coming in contact with the pesticide. And by the time they come back out in the morning, it's dried. So there's not that impact to it. In addition to that, other non-targets, we spray at night, so we're not impacting butterflies and that kind of stuff. So we do try to target those times. One is when the mosquitoes are flying, so that's the biggest thing. But then we're also using, we use those other products that we have. So our larvicides that we're using, they target mosquitoes, and specifically, so you're getting these natural products that are specifically targeting mosquitoes, so you're not getting that impact to it. We're doing the non-chemical control, so emptying containers. We're doing the biological control, putting the fish out there. So we have all these different options that help with the environment. More environmentally sensitive or environmentally conscious products that we're using. And so, there's nothing super crazy, super toxic that we're doing out there.
That's good to know. I know that's the question that we get the most
Yeah.
is really about the toxins, the animals, the pets. And then honestly, we get some questions about bees a lot. And that's
People love
big.
bees.
Yeah, people love bees here.
And the other thing with the bees is that we do have, when we have our spray maps, we have a layer with known beehive locations on them. So we have that on when they're spraying. So they may not see a beehive out there, but, they're conscious of it and they can flip it off. So they're not treating directly over that beehive. And we get that list from beekeepers contacting us to let us know. But then also looking at the state beekeeper location list. And so we check that and make sure we have the most up-to-date information that we can possibly have to avoid any conflict with bees.
Wow, that's so interesting. I know you talked about some of your educational and outreach opportunities that you guys do, and you guys are constantly going out and educating the community. What is the one thing that people find the most surprising when you go out there?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I really don't know. I think when we have the opportunity to really sit and talk with people, kind of like now, you guys, there's just everything. Once they really find out about how we put, it's not just spray them. It's we put a lot of thought and effort into targeting the appropriate areas and making sure we're having the best impact for our chemicals that we're putting out. So we're really targeting those populations. How there's other things that we do besides just spraying to get them out there. I think apart from that, it's just the mosquito information. Like people, you think about a mosquito and all you think about is it should be dead.
That's true.
And you don't really care about what it is or how it lives.
Or how it dies.
Or how it dies. That's true. There's lots of mosquitoes out there that don't bite people. Some of them target frogs and amphibians and reptiles.
I do not know.
Some of them are birds, so we may catch them, but they're normally 15, 20 feet up in trees as their preferred areas to be. So
My brain is just exploding more and more throughout this
I
conversation.
have a question, and I'm dying to know.
Okay.
What is the weirdest mosquito fact that you have? I mean, you're a wealth of knowledge about mosquitoes. There has to be one really weird fact that you like to share.
Okay. Actually, there is actually one mosquito out there that doesn't bite people. And the larvae of it feed on other mosquitoes.
Oh,
So it is it's a carnivore, but it's also
like a serial killer?
yeah, like a cannibal. Just eats
serial
other
killer
mosquitoes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it's a large mosquito. And it's kind of pretty,
That's
the
the
colorway.
mosquito we want, is the mosquito that kills other mosquitoes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it'll
Is
go.
that what they call mosquito hunter? Those big mosquito? Okay.
No.
I have no idea
Yeah.
what I'm talking about.
So no, that's okay, because that's a common misconception. The big things that people see flying around their yards with the really long legs on
Yes.
them, those are actually crane flies. Not mosquitoes at all. Don't bite people. Don't do anything mosquito related. But I grew up calling them grass mosquitoes.
Yeah.
But they're not really mosquitoes. So, but mosquito hawks, grass mosquitoes, those are some different names for them. Yeah.
Wow.
Nothing to do with mosquitoes. They don't target mosquitoes. It's just
But we do
They
have a
just are.
serial killer mosquito.
yes.
Yes.
Yep.
That
Kills
is.
its own kind.
I have learned so much today about mosquitoes. My brain is just exploding this entire conversation, but we do have to close because we're getting close to the end. So we ask this question every single time, and we need to know, how do you define success, and has that definition changed over time?
I think really success for us is doing the best that we can to respond to our customers, our citizens of Volusia County. We have to, we accept that 0 isn't a reasonable result. But if we look at, if we have a trap that has 1,000 mosquitoes in it after one night of trapping, we do a treatment, and now it's 500. We just had a 50% reduction in the mosquito population. It's still high, but that's successful because we've really knocked it back. So I think for me, because I've been doing this for the whole entomology pest control thing for so long, that's kind of always been the way I look at things. So that's a success. But I think really success is getting people to understand that 0 mosquitoes isn't a realistic goal. It's managing them to a tolerable level. And sometimes, for some people, 1 isn't a tolerable level. And that's okay. You have to understand that,
Maybe
we're
Florida's not
limited.
the best place to live if you are not.
Yeah.
If 1 is not tolerable.
Yeah. So, we do have a lot down here. And so, it's just getting people to understand what we do and how we do it, I think is the level of success. We still operate, what we have our targets for, and we really do try to bring those levels down. But 0 isn't a success number because it's not a realistic goal.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Of
And
course.
teaching us all of the things about mosquito control. And we'll see you again when we come to do the day in the life.
Yes.
Actually get to see some of this stuff put into practical application. So thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of It's Giving Government.
And make sure to stay tuned for our next episode of A Day in the Life, where Kelsee and Maya go out and spend the day with Volusia County Mosquito Control. And I'm sure you guys are going to learn so much. It's going to be so interesting. So be on the lookout for that.
We can't wait, and stay tuned for our next episode of It's Giving Government. Bye.
It's giving
Government.